Hi, everyone. My name is Laura, and I'm the Director of Public Relations with the Nourished Group, formerly called the Gluten-Free Media Group. Thank you for joining us today. As always, we encourage you to take part in the conversation. So please ask questions, share comments using your panel, and we will discuss those at the end. If for some reason we get disconnected today, please sign back in and we will continue on with the presentation. Our speaker today is Jim Garceau. Jim's passion for the food industry was cultivated at an early age, growing up on a dairy farm with a deep appreciation for great tasting real foods. Jim has a combination of grit and intelligence with a unique understanding of the dynamics in the entire food system from farm to table. With 2 master's degrees in hand, he started his career, quote, carrying a bag for Hormel Foods, selling Spam and other canned meats in the Houston, Texas area. Since then, he's enjoyed tremendous success, disrupting 4 product categories, building brands from startup to over 250 million in sales, and introducing over 300 items over the last 2 decades in highly competitive categories. He's here today to share some keys to success with us. And with that, I'm excited to turn it over to Jim.
Laura, thank you very much. That's very kind. Was actually sounds very impressive. So I appreciate it, and welcome from, I guess, the frozen tundra here in Wisconsin, where hopefully it'll get to 20 degrees below zero today. So we'll be excited when it warms up again tomorrow. So hopefully where you are, it's a lot warmer. I notice a few people are still joining. Laura, do we want to wait a few minutes, or what are your thoughts? Or should we just get started?
We can jump right in, I'd say.
Okay, very good. So the topic of today's discussion is developing product concepts that wow both customers and consumers. And I put together a little checklist which we'll go through today, and you can follow along, and also then determine where you're at in your brand development / product development, and hopefully we'll have some insights here that can maybe challenge your current way of thinking, and or maybe help you improve what you're doing right now. So with that, a little bit about the Fresh Directions company that I started. It's our mission to help entrepreneurial food companies connect their passions with unique capabilities, their capabilities and strengths with opportunities in the marketplace. And we offer fresh market insights along with customized business management tools to help you grow your sales and profit. So I've been in the business for 27 years, both sales and marketing. And the categories that have worked in primarily frozen snack appetizers, with the Anchor Foods experience with frozen vegetables and meals with Bird's Eye Foods, and with Heinz, then also with gluten-free crackers and snacks with TH Foods / Crunchmaster brand, and the fresh prepared foods recently with Good Foods. So Laura mentioned a little bit about the products I've introduced over the last couple of decades, and really proud that a lot of those products are still growing in the marketplace and have delivered over $1 billion in incremental business into the supermarket and various trade channels that you see below. So our business, we're able to tap into different resources as necessary, different market research companies, packaging design agencies, R&D experts, and get you the best support for your business. We use a proprietary process to analyze a category. You'll see some of those kind of templates that we work on that we're using today to analyze the business and get you the right kind of strategies to grow the business. So there's different companies in the key kind of brands that I worked on. A couple of breakthrough concepts that had the pleasure of leading, like the marketing teams basically to grow. That is the TGI Fridays brand, which Anchor Foods had licensed as part of the business at Anchor Foods, and that business had a nice, kind of rapid growth rate as we translated early on the restaurant brand into the retail and club environment. And that was went from, I guess, zero to over 150 million in sales in the category. And then the Poppers brand, which Anchor Foods had created in the food service environment, we translated into retail. So total that we grew from like 40 million to 250 million in the 3.5 year period. So it was quite a nice, fun run. The brands were ultimately bought by Heinz, and the plants were bought by McCain. So I worked with Heinz for a while as well. After with Bird's Eye Foods, I was part of the revitalization there. And we revitalized, as you know, I came up with the steamer kind of meal projects. That wasn't my project per se, but we were involved as a team in that. But we revitalized the garlic chicken here. You see, for example, that we reintroduced nationwide, and increased the business by over 30 million in a couple of years, just by improving the product, the positioning, and coming up with premium kind of meal offerings, and helping people live healthier lives. Then moved with see in the middle, the Crunchmaster brand, the Harvestone brand. There's the gluten-free cracker brand that is the lead brand and the secondary brand at TH Foods, which is owned by Mitsubishi Corporation of Japan. We had a really nice run, starting with 5 million in sales there, introducing the multi-grain crackers and multi-seed crackers into the market 2006, 2007, and bringing that brand from basically zero to over 100 million in sales. So had a lot of interesting experience in different categories, and here's some of the reasons why we were successful. So part of the approach that I think everyone needs to take, and I like to take, is and it's the basis on a model that we used primarily at Bird's Eye Foods, and that is kind of the overlap between your unique company strengths and your unique capabilities, and the passion and the relationships and technology that you have in your company, your brand positioning and how you differentiate and keep that authentic story, and having that unique brand attributes that that are interesting to consumers, your brand positioning, along with the customer and consumer needs. So putting together that complete benefit package and that overlap between the three that answers those key questions. And as Chuck Furman, the vice president of marketing at Bird's Eye, used to say, it's like, so what? Who cares? And what's in it for us? And that's kind of the template that as you think about the business, there's got to have that overlap. So a simple innovation process is kind of what I recommend. I mean, we have you can go very complicated stage gate processes, but a lot of you in the business have great ideas, and you've identified those opportunities, with scan data or magazines, trade shows, even suppliers, or just your own creativity. And that's, a lot of times people have put together great concepts and prototypes. What we're here to talk about today is really like beyond those kind of concepts and those prototypes. How do you get successful in the marketplace? What's going to make the difference in your success and the degree of success that you have? So we're going to talk a little bit about internet concept screens, focus groups, and actually sensory tests, and then whether it makes sense to go to market and expand the product with just a basic financial tool, and then also look to how to go to market in terms of placement and what kind of support plan you need, and constantly monitoring that performance to check your sell through and success. So these are the 5 questions that I developed as a kind of a screener to determine whether or not you have covered all the kind of the basic bases of whether you're going to have a wow concept in the marketplace. And one of them's the source of volume, where you're going to get your volume from, the strength of the concept, the sensory superiority, the profit and pricing that you have, as well as the marketing plan. So we'll go through those individually. So as you're validating the volume potential, the source of volume analysis always has to include your target customers and consumers, of course, but it's really important to know, the demographics of the category and the key competitors. Your whether what the actual household penetration of the category is, and how much the people purchase every time they buy the products in that category, as well as how often they buy it. Also, then you want to look at which markets that are the biggest markets for this category, because you really want to fish where the fish are. It's so much easier to grow in categories and markets where the business is already growing. It is incredibly difficult to steal share from someone else. And as you know, it's those primary purchase channels, your target customers, and their fit for the product, and the location, even the location by customer, can be very important, because Walmart stores, for example, they have a wide variety of their reach. Basically, everybody shops at Walmart, but depending on where the stores are, you get a much different picture of what the consumers are in those stores. And then understanding the competitive set. Consumers aren't looking to eat more calories nowadays. They're looking to improve their nutrition, and Nourish Group here is doing a fantastic job of connecting consumers to healthier products. And that's one of the reasons I'm partnered with them. But I mean, you got to get your sales from somewhere, and consumers are going to switch. They're going to switch, hopefully, to a more premium product that you're selling. Depends on your proposition, but you have to look at those current sales of the competitive set, the scan movement, the velocity, and what the everyday movement velocity is projected to be for your product. So you need to understand and know that if you're not going to be in the top 20% of the category products in terms of sales rate, and you're in test market and you're not reaching those rates, you better consider modifying your product and or improving something about your offering slash pricing, promotion, etc., in order to get that sales rate up. And then you're, of course, your target share of category. So here's a couple of different templates that I've used over the years that can be helpful in kind of reviewing the opportunity in a marketplace. One is on the top left here, the Spectra demand indexes. And as you see here, this was an example where the red tells you where it's very high index for this particular category, and in the case frozen hors d'oeuvres and snacks. And so you can see where the high propensity to consume these products are. And then, of course, Spectra, which is, I think, now known by AC Nielsen, can tell you right down to the store level, what the volume is in those stores from a fit for the product standpoint. So getting your hands on that data somewhere is extremely helpful, whether it's directly from AC Nielsen or through a broker or someone to help you plan out your rollout, because you want to build a story of success in the areas that you're going to be the most productive and most chance for success. Using my warm tea today too, so hopefully it'll keep things going. All right, the next top right have the consumer profile information. So understand how people are shopping the category. So if you don't have access to scan data, and you can go into stores and you can at least understand how people are shopping that category based on how the retailers are setting up the category. So in this particular case, the products were blocked by segment. So we were always trying to get a brand block of put all of our brand products together. But in this particular case, the way consumers were shopping it, they were shopping for the breaded cheese items, the stuffed jalapenos, and other frozen appetizers by segment first, and then by flavor, and then by brand. So if ideally, you're trying to create a destination for your product where people can find you, have to understand where they're shopping and what their purchase dynamics are. So on the right here, it says, 3 to 10 households are buying, the frozen appetizers, so about a third of the country, a third of the consumers, and 5% were buying with coupons, 68% with some kind of trade deal. So it's a fairly heavily trade, heavy category, with the average discount being 30%, which was pretty competitive. We also include here a little preference on the flavors of the products. So we had done an analysis based on the scan data and shown that both us and competitors, 53% of the sales was in cheddar flavor and 47% was cream. So in cream cheese. So the many categories, you'll find that there's a chocolate and vanilla effect, basically. So your top two flavors, will be a majority of the volume. Here on the bottom right, you had this demographic summary. So, the age indexes, the household size of the category, as well as your brand. So that's the important information you need to know in terms of, especially as you're doing social media and other things. So that household panel data that is below and in that demographic summary, you should buy probably at least once every 3 years. In the category, and as you grow, you'll want to have it every year, because like in this particular case, we could see how many more households were buying us this year than last year, the percent households buying, as well as whether or not we're shortening the purchase cycle, and whether or not this share of category requirements in this particular case, the brand was 32% share of category requirements. That means that if the consumers were buying this brand, it satisfied 30-some% of their needs. If you didn't, and the higher the number, obviously, the more loyal people were to your product, and that you are to your product. So it's really important to look at that loyalty measure and make sure that from a repeat standpoint, that's where all your profitability a lot of times is as a brand, in the consumers that are heavily loyal to your product, kind of those super consumers that are influencers, and that buy a lot of your products. So what do the WOW concepts have? The WOW concepts have the highest share of requirements in the category generally, and they outperform competitors on a dollars per buyer standpoint. That means that every time they purchase the product, they're buying more than the competitors. So here's a standard ranking report that's commonly used in the biz. And if you haven't seen these kind of scorecards before, this is a fairly common one. On the left here, it has the share of the category and the total brand sales. Then it has distribution, the number of items were carried, as well as the percent distribution in the marketplace. So this was the second year, I guess, after we introduced the TGI Fridays brand, and it was number 3 in the category. The Poppers was number 4. On the right here, you see the dollar ranking of the items, and basically the top 2 items for the category were like Totino's pizza rolls and bagel bites, and we had established basically a premium section of adult appetizers. So you want to make sure that if you're in a test market area and you're looking to build your brand, that as you build in a particular market or at a particular account, that your items end up in the top 20% of the category. And you want your brand to be number 1 or number 2 in the segment in which you compete. So this particular case, the category included kind of kids, kind of all family appetizers. So the TGI Fridays was by far number 1 in the kind of premium adult snack category. So you want to kind of own a segment basically in order to be kind of a WOW concept. Then as you look at the brands that are like crazy successful, generally 2 or 3 flavors are the ones that drive 70% of sales, and that gets you very efficient in terms of your shelf movement, as well as the retailers loving your utilization of the space on the shelf, as well as your operational efficiencies in terms of improving profitability. So Laura, I think you were going to ask a question here and get some response from folks if see with the level of involvement in this.
Yes, our first poll question is up. Have you developed a list of competitive products and locations that will be the source of volume for this new product?
Anybody interested in responding, or if they're too shy, that's okay too. We can continue. That's fine.
So the results came in 45% said yes, 30% no, 25% unsure.
Okay, well that's fair enough. It's a pretty good number actually, because I wouldn't expect everyone to have kind of looked at it the business this way in terms of where you're sourcing your volume from. But you got to know if you're going into a particular category, that you're trading out some other people's business, and that's this reason why they call it competition, I guess. So let's continue, I guess. So second important area from a standpoint of kind of reviewing how interesting and how big your concept's going to be in a marketplace in terms of overall appeal. Strongly success can recommend that you consider some of the quantitative concept test screens that are out there. And there's quite a few different services, but in the natural kind of real food space, I really like to work with the Natural Marketing Institute. Hartman Group does a really nice job as well. There's others, but that's two of the ones that I found that are very, very knowledgeable about this entire this kind of natural, real, fresh, simple food space. And so if you look at you can easily put together a concept screen with either one of them, and it runs maybe about $3,000 a concept. Also, New Hope I think has a service as well that it's a little lower cost, at least to get you started. But all of them have the same basic kind of concept, and that is you're trying to find out, what's the purchase interest for your concept versus what is currently out there. So you basically show an image of the product along with the benefit package and the pricing, and you show it to people over the internet that have been pre-selected based on your category and your demographic. And potentially even your customer groups. So you get basically analysis of kind of your top the driver benefits and value package, or that you have, as well as you'll get an understanding of the top selling flavors, which a turf analysis does. Which is the total, unduplicated reach and frequency of the concept. And generally, like I said, you'll find that 2 to 3 items generally you will represent 70-80% of the volume, and then beyond that, you're really not adding a lot in terms of your overall reach, and it's in terms of the consumers that are going to look to buy your product. So you're comparing on the purchase interest, the overall liking of the concept, the value of it, how believable your story is, and how believable the proposition is, and how unique or new and different it is versus competitive offerings. And then another important measure is, would the consumer recommend you or this concept to friends and family, which is really valuable from a standpoint of, I can use to show how strong your concept is. So we're looking for the WOW concepts generally have that turf analysis, so they know their top flavors and what they should be highlighting and focusing on in terms of their introduction to the brand and the products that are going to really drive the trial. And then also they have a purchase interest that either matches or is stronger than the top competitors, or the generally, you want to be have at least a strong enough purchase interest that is, in tune with what the category is. Uniqueness scores cannot be under, I guess, represented, because that uniqueness is what, of course, if it's recognized by the consumer, really sets you apart, and that's what is valued by the marketplace in terms of you bringing new sales and new excitement to the category. And then the other thing that Wow Concepts have is they have packaging that communicates the brand story and the benefits desired by consumers. So, Laura, I think you had another question there.
Yep. Are your product concept scores, overall appeal, value, uniqueness, higher than the competitive set from poll one?
And if you don't have the concept scores currently, I would guess you'd say no.
Results are in. 33% said yes, 67% unsure.
Okay, yeah, so there's probably some opportunities out there to validate the product concepts before you go to market, and a little spent up front in terms of understanding what the consumer overall interest in the concepts are will save you a ton of money after the fact. So if you pair the concept test with outside sensory testing, and the last three companies that I've worked with, we didn't do really super expensive, like home use tests or mall intercepts. What we did was we worked through different universities, and the universities have great food science programs. Of course, I have worked with them over the years and found some of the ones that are really good. Oregon State University is good. Penn State, University of Florida, even University of Wisconsin here locally has great programs, so you can screen the different groups that you want to sensory test with, and you can include yourself as well as competitive products, and it's very reasonable. So I put the base question on here, which is, you want to understand your hedonic, and the hedonic is the answer to the following question, which is, considering everything, and it's the first question that's asked in all these sensory tests: what phrase best describes how much you like or dislike this product? And it goes from I dislike it to I like it very much, all the way to and it's a 9-point scale. And so if you have a hedonic that's higher than 6.5, that's what the big companies use for like a minimum hurdle. And so I put together an example here. It was some competitive data that we had used at one of the companies, but I masked it. And at the time, we had 3 flavors, and they were all 7-point or higher. Which is awesome, and the competitors in this space were 6.4, 5.8 to 6.4. So it's an exponential scale. So generally a quarter point difference can be significant, but if you have a half a point or higher than your competitors in this category, that's a wow product. Okay, and people when they try you versus the products that are on the shelf near you, they'll recognize it, and it'll be worth your investment for sampling and stuff. So that's the kind of sensory test. But at the same time, you get diagnostics on all the different your just about right scores on salt and whatever flavor attributes you're looking at, so you can optimize your products as well. So really valuable information as you're doing your product development. So Laura, I think you had a question on this one. See how many people are using sensory testing?
Yes, the next poll question is your score significantly higher than the competitive set in taste tests conducted with the target audience? %20 said yes, 5% no, and 75% unsure.
Yeah, so if somebody is not doing sensory testing and they're doing the traditional model where I would call it the friends and family model, or you're the office model where you sit around the office and you say, oh wow, this tastes great. No one has a golden tongue on every product, and so that's great for a lot of times for screening of product prototypes. But when you're going to go to marketplace and really spend some serious money, and as you know, it's very expensive introducing a product into marketplace. Outside sensory is really valuable, so I'd strongly suggest it. Okay, next page. Okay, so a little bit on product profitability, and I call this fully loaded because it contains pretty much everything that like you should include on the product cost. So we'll go through this a little bit, and what it takes to have basically a wow concept. So first of all, if you start at the top, your gross sales, that's your sales price basically per unit. And as you look at the kind of the basic kind of trade expenses that you have, which are deductions from the your gross sales, your sales discounts and allowances. A lot of people forget the cash discounts that retailers want, and they also forget the the kind of sales services allowances and stuff that distributors charge. So really important to. Oh, Charlie wants to come join it too. So, anyways, the other thing that people sometimes forget is about marketing, or actually considering the cost of spoils. So as products don't sell and or are damaged in the marketplace and distribution, you certainly have to take that into account. And so you need to understand what that the common spoils returns are for different categories. Promotional allowances, they are your what you're spending with the retailers and to promote your products, and that can include demonstrations, it can include their ads, it can include displays, any other programs that you do with the trade in order to do programs to grow their business. So generally, to get a product that's successful in the trade, you need like a 15% trade promotion accrual that varies by category and by by channel as well, but 15% across the board is pretty reasonable. And I always like to have a, like what I call a market development fund, another 5% just for introduction. And that's so you can have some targeted programs that you may need special customer support for. And that may be extra expense that first year to grow the business. So total deductions, you're looking at 23 to 25% of the overall price. So you're netting down. You got 75, 80% net sales. So the really good wow concepts. The cost of goods, your total cost of producing a product with the packaging and everything, runs you 25 to 30% of sales. If it's higher than that, you're not going to be able to afford the remaining stuff, which is the warehousing and distribution. You should have a little bit for any kind of variances that you may have in production, as well as just general, like variances. And then, of course, many times in small business, you're paying a broker. So you may sell it yourself in, but then you have the broker manage it. So you got to include their brokerage commission, which can, of course, run anywhere from 4 to 5% of sometimes of net sales. So you have to keep that in mind. And royalties if you have you're paying a licensed brand, couponing, advertising, including the social media and your website. It's got to be taken into account. All your wages for your employees and their bonuses as well, the broker bonuses. Travel and meals, sales contests, trade shows, professional services, basically your ad agencies and website agency and stuff that you have to pay. Don't forget your samples expense. It can be a lot, especially as you're getting started, as you're giving away samples, and you got a budget for that. Business services and just kind of basic supplies and stuff. So that can total up to about 30% of the purchase price. So you're netting down to after the variable margin then is down to 15%. And you have, of course, you have some research and development. You got to pay yourself too. So another 5 points for that takes you down to 10%. So what do the WOW concepts have? They fully fund themselves and they're prepared because the initial spending up front that first year or two in terms of trade accrual can easily be 15-20%. Sometimes people spend up to 30%. It's crazy in terms of what they spend on trade. And you need to really budget the 10%, which I conclude the coupons and advertising together for consumer promo. And then so right away you want to have your concept be 10% or higher net operating income, and that is a wow for you because that keeps you in business and helps you be able to fund growth because cash flow is so important that you're growing the business.
Our next question.
Yep.
Are you able to make a double-digit margin on this product starting from the first shipment? Take a look at the results. 19% say yes, 29% no, 52% unsure.
Yeah, so if you haven't looked at this in terms of putting together your total cost and really analyzing it and comparing your different products, it's really important to do so. And if you're looking at it, then you're going to look to improve it. So you can then once you see where you're at, you can make significant improvements. So as you're putting together, your presentation in the marketplace, there's two main aspects. You have your consumer promotion plan, which includes all anything you're doing to push the product through to consumers, which will include all your couponing and your social media. In this case, we did in-store marketing and we did direct mail and different couponing programs. This is usually you're keying these promotions around the kind of key seasonality. So in this particular case, January for Super Bowl was a big promotion, and December was a big promotion as well for people getting together for Christmas holidays. So yeah, so you need to make sure you have sufficient spending for those peak consumption periods, and that allows you to cut through the clutter because, as you know, it's difficult to get people's attention in the marketplace, and you really you have limited funds to spend, so you really need to have a full presentation in terms of what you're putting together for promotions with consumers, so that the customers know that you're going to be supporting the product. Then tying that together with the trade promotion plan. This is an example template that we used at Anchor Foods, but these templates are pretty common. You're got the account at the top, and what your everyday case price is. And you're basically funding your accrual as you go. So based on your projected movement, you have a certain number of dollars that you generate on a full year plan, and then you spend at those promotional events. In this particular case, we're looking at doing a promotion around New Year / Super Bowl, one in March Madness, and one for the Halloween / football season. And then we did a tie, kind of a summertime promotion. So Wow Concepts have, programs that match the consumer plan and are customized by customer, and they have a minimum of like 4 solid programs minimum per year. So yeah, that's kind of the best practices, and obviously you can do various modeling for that, but you have to have a solid plan for a year as you do your presentations and new products to customers, no matter what the level of support you're giving, so that they know that you're going to pull it off the shelf and build the business as a partnership with them. So Laura, I think you had a question then.
Final question. Have you developed a marketing plan, the 4 Ps, to drive sufficient awareness and trial in the first 6 months?
And that would be for whatever new concept that you're introducing to the marketplace, I guess.
Here are the results. 24% yes, 48% no, and 29% unsure.
Okay, well, looks like we got some work to do. And then I'm certainly open to questions. Looks like we have right about 20 minutes, like what we planned. You see my contact information. If I can help anyone, I can certainly take brand questions offline and help people specifically. But if you have any general questions, let me know what clarification is needed.
We did receive several questions throughout the presentation, so I'm going to read those off right now. The first question, if you had to pick one key driver for brand success, what would it be?
Laura, are you saying besides getting very good advice from an experienced advisor up front in your business? But that's really important, I would say. If you have trouble answering any of the questions that were addressed today, there's a lot of people that kind of been through the school of hard knocks like me, and you can save yourself a lot of consternation, a lot of trouble, and save yourself a lot of money by working with someone that has kind of been there and done that in these competitive environments before, and it has grown brands so that you don't have to recreate and learn all the same lessons over and over again. But if there's one thing that I would recommend, from an actual product standpoint in terms of concepts, and that would probably be doing the concept and sensory screens on the products, because taste is paramount in products, and you can walk through the Natural Foods Expo or the Fancy Food Show where new companies are introducing their products, and you can see which ones really have done some solid kind of sensory work. Most of the products don't taste very good, and if you're not outperforming the competitors on a taste standpoint, which is the #1 criteria, you're not going to get the repeat that you need, and it's hard to grow a business when you're constantly having to get new people in the business.
All right, thank you for answering that one. We have a couple more. The next one, what are some common mistakes brands make as they introduce new products?
That's a good question. The probably the biggest mistake that people make is they extend themselves too far. They don't focus, and it takes patience. But like I said, on a product standpoint, if you haven't found, like the chocolate and vanilla, or in the case of the poppers, the cheddar and cream of your category, and you're, kind of extending your product to additional flavors without first having those really, really, I would call the driver SKUs in your brand, the ones that everyone goes to try your product, the ones that really connect the best with your brand story and with your brand positioning. If you don't have those two products, 2 to 3 products that really set you apart, then you seriously need to consider doing some additional homework before you expand the products and expand your flavors to other categories and stuff.
Oh, great. Next question. Someone's interested in getting a copy of your slides. Is that something you'd be willing to share? Each attendee today will get an email with a recording of today's webinar in case you'd like to go back and watch, but is there a way to get a hard copy of your slides?
Absolutely. Just have them email me directly, and I'll send them a PDF. I don't think there's nothing proprietary in the presentation per se. It's all kind of common knowledge stuff. So yeah, no problem with sharing that.
Great. Next question. How do you know the household penetration, purchase size, and frequency? Are there reports to buy?
Yes, both IRI and AC Nielsen have reports that you can buy on the household panel, and they each have their own panel, of course. And so if you're working with spins on the scan data, they can buy the report from IRI. Like I said, generally I'd buy it maybe once every 3 years when you're starting up, because I think it's depends on the category, but I think they cost like 10 grand, for example. Depends on how much data and how deep you're getting in the category. So you got to be selective of what products and competitors that you're looking at. Yeah, and if you don't have the money to do that, then I found sometimes your competitors have shared the information somewhere. If they're a lot of times in a investors presentation, they'll do that if they're a big company. And you can even find some like standard household penetration information that will be shared from Intel and other kind of syndicated sources. So if somebody has specific questions on their category, I might be able to point them in the right direction to find some free data to get started as well for different categories.
Great. The questions keep flowing in. The next one. When launching a new frozen brand in a hot category, what is your advice for targeting the right retail chains given the high cost of entry slotting? We have limited review to build the brand.
Yeah, it's a really good question, because the frozen space, as you know, you're behind the glass, and it's a very limited space. And so that the kind of spectra targeting that we did, where you kind of matched up the highest volume stores and the highest the ones that were the best fit for your brand, is even more important if you're looking to do any kind of upfront spend. Keep in mind, I mean, if you have a fantastic product that everybody wants, they'll be willing to negotiate with you from a slotting standpoint too. And we took a position at Anchor Foods on all of our products that we would not pay upfront slotting. And so we instead, we're willing to pass on some retailers if they weren't willing to work with us. So it took us sometimes 3-4 years, to get in particular retailers. but they were charging too much, you just have to pass them by. I mean, and so there's plenty of what I would call non-slotting accounts up there where they're out there that you can build your business that will be willing to work with you instead of spending upfront slotting that doesn't that just kind of mostly goes in their pocket. The smart retailers are the ones that are reinvesting that money and willing to work with you and take that money and put it into a full year plan, and so they're invested with you in growing the business together. If they're not, you have a combination of two things. So you need to have a stronger product concept going up front, so that people are desiring the product and have a really good story based on already successful test markets that you've done with other retailers. So you're taking that information and leveraging it with those retailers that are more difficult, that are asking for upfront money. Hopefully that answers the question, but I certainly we can get into more detail on that if somebody wants to follow up on a specific issue or a specific brand challenge.
Great. We have another question here. Which marketing strategy has the most lasting result? And then a follow-up to that, where does social media fit in the marketing strategy?
Wow, that's a really big question, because there are so many different marketing strategies that you can use, and I would say that's really specific to the product that you have. So I'm preferential to taking kind of a premium kind of product positioning, just because you have more margin to work with. So from my standpoint, it's always better, and there's some great studies out there from the Hartman Group on premium marketing strategies for premium brands, and that's where most of the growth has been in the certainly the supermarket business. So and where everybody's trying to appeal to people that have cleaner, maybe more costly products, but people are willing to pay more because they're better for you. So from a standpoint of your marketing strategy, you have to look across all aspects, in terms of what type of promotions you do. So if you have a premium brand, you're not doing really deep discounts in the marketplace. You're not heavily couponing it, but then you're looking to really connect with that core audience that you have on a very kind of personal level. So an example I would give is, at TH Foods, when we were connecting with gluten-free consumers early on, it was a very loyal group of folks that with celiac disease, and when you gave them a product that was really satisfied their needs and really resonated with them, they helped kind of build the core of your brand, and were extremely loyal to the products. And then you can expand beyond that. Once you have a super loyal group of consumers, and that's why the social media is so efficient, because you can target and connect with people on a very individual level, and get those influencers and bloggers, etc., that really connect well with your brand to help promote you. So it's the old marketing. It's word of mouth, and that's the least cost way of promoting the products. And then if you have a great tasting product, there's nothing better than sampling, if you can get distribution in Costco or Sam's Club or BJ's, because the demonstrations, return on your investment is so much better than what you can do in other environments, where it's disconnected from the sales, and or you get a very low sales return for your big demo spend.
Thanks, Jim. Next question here. It seems that must be in UNFI to grow a brand nationwide, as most stores do not buy direct. However, with our experience, the unforeseen deductions can be over 50% with these distributors, which kills most small brands. How do you price your product not knowing all the additional fees from distributors?
I think I guess the key question is you should know those distributor costs kind of upfront, and yeah, they can be palpable, from a standpoint of certainly the spoils and returns from some of the like a slow selling product in the distributor can be yeah, they can kill you. And so that's where I would be very focused and selective of which the distributor houses you go in, because you really need to make sure you carry the process all the way through to the end customer. So you really need a key, like large anchor, I think, retailer group in those individual houses that you're going to be distributing the product in, to be able to, to be pulling the product through. And so you're regularly evaluating that from a movement standpoint before you expand to other distribution centers and other retailers that are lower volume, especially in the natural channel, where the velocity is not as great as it is in some of the conventional markets. So I'd be very careful and test and learn in the high volume areas first before you expand.
Great. The next question is coming from a small top 8 allergen-free bakery. They have a focus group scheduled for February 13th and have invited 10 participants. Do you think that will provide a large enough sampling? And do you have a favorite question to ask?
In focus groups, I don't have a favorite question to ask. Focus groups are really good. What I would say is to help refine your product concept before you go to quantitative, before you do a concept screen on the internet, so you can actually get the validation of your findings. So what I would say on the questions that I like on focus groups that are really effective are the questions that revolve around, you show them the same kind of concept that you're talking about showing in the quantitative, and you have them like highlight the things that they like and the things that they don't like about that concept, and it can help you start to dissect, I guess, what people really resonate with your product concept. And that's what the focus groups are really good for. They're not really good for validating whether or not you have a winning concept, or validating any flavors, because they're not quantitative, so they're not validating on a large enough number of consumers that you can project it to any larger population.
All right, the last question here. We have developed a loyal and quickly growing following for our products. Our products have rated 95% higher than others in the category. We have strong e-commerce sales, but are trying to get into more wholesale. Is there a best way to go about doing this? We are a premium brand and not a Walmart brand.
That's a really good question. If you have a premium brand and you say you're not a Walmart brand, but eventually, there's a lot of premium brands that sell at Walmart. They sell more organic products than anyone else in the marketplace, besides maybe Costco. But so if you're a premium product, the entryway, the really determinant of whether or not you can really resonate with like a national player is whether or not you can be successful within the club environment, because it's generally like the entryway from the natural stores to like the concepts that end up going national. In the club stores where there's Costco or Sam's, Costco primarily on the premium products, of course. If you're able to sell products, it's kind of a pure marketplace, right? So if you can be successful with a proposition there, based on the product and the packaging and the pricing and the value that you offer, then you have a product that it's worth investing in to build in the conventional kind of supermarket space. And then 4 or 5 years, or so, you can consider even the Walmart from a brand building standpoint, because ultimately, if you have a premium brand, you want to sell to where the premium consumers are shopping, and they even shop at Walmart. So. Any other questions, Laura?
I apologize there. It seems like I lost my audio for a moment. I do want to remind everyone that the Nourished Group can provide online concept testing for our partner brands, and we do offer a variety of ways to sample your products and market as well. That's the last question we received, so thank you again. Please look out for a follow-up email from us that will include a recording of today's webinar. And on behalf of the Nourished Group and Jim, we want to thank you for joining us today. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any other questions.
Yep. Thank you very much. Keep warm.